Recording, yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to, do you see my screen? Hello? Liam, you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting into this one. And I'm getting into the introductions to, last time you did the introductions to databases, I understand from Hanoch, you went over all the links. I will just summarize the other two, and I will extend one topic, which is many to many. Let me explain. I'll demonstrate on Excel. You did, if you have tables in database, you can have several types of links. Let's say I have two tables, table A, put here, we'll do a table A. And in table A, I have some columns. Let's call it column A, column B, column C, column D. Let's call this one table. Sorry. Table A. And this one will do the same things. We have two tables. Let's call this one table B. And let's call those one E, F, G, and here I'm gonna put column A. Just, you know, I can name them any way I want. They are two totally different tables. If I do a one-to-many, that means let's say I have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just let's say I have 8 rows. And let's say in table B, let's say table A, sorry, I have, let's call that student name. So let's call first name and second one, last name. Okay? And that one could be telephone, phone. Okay? And let's say I have another table, and the other table will be, let's call that one will be, this one students. That table will call, table A will be really students. And table B will call it courses. Okay? A student, and let's say in the tables here, again, with numbering, let's give the, I usually like, when I give a name to columns in a table, usually the column that it's a primary key, I call it P key. And the primary key here, it really is a primary key of the students of the table number 1. Here I can call courses, okay? In a second, I will change the column's name. But the courses could be also has a primary key. Pay attention, it might be the same name, but it's really refer primary key for the courses. And this is a primary key for the student. The objective of the primary key is to identify each row. So let's say Liam is your first name, Liam, okay? Your last name?
Christian.
Let's see if I can spell it right. Great. Why is it written? Yeah, it's probably here, isn't it? Yeah, here I got it. Fair enough. And your phone number, whatever it is, okay? 256, 256, and whatever number. Just writing something. Some things could be other ones. Let's say Amos, I'm number 2. Why it didn't like me? The reason it didn't like me because I didn't do that. 256, and I'm just writing some. Okay, let's just say this is the number. Let's go to Amos. It doesn't like me. Okay, Amos Baranes. Okay, now see, I'm a student, you are a student, I have a telephone number as well. Good. And now we, there could be several courses really that we are interested in. Let's say we have a course 1, it's Python. Fair enough. Let's say this one is JavaScript. And there could be other courses, okay? Machine learning, deep learning, etc. Okay, all those courses, here I can, sorry, in fact, here I made a mistake, I apologize. Usually, primary key will be a number. It could be also 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll see, you can define a column to be a primary key, and you can have the database give those numbers automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. What's really important is that every row will have a unique number. So number 1 is different than the third one because this one has a number 1 and this number 3. So the primary key objective is to identify one row versus another row. Some things in the students table, 1 and 5, they are different, will be different student. Okay, let's write here Hanoch. Okay, so Hanoch is number 5. There could be other students, and that could be a long table, and this one can be a long table of courses. In a relationship of 1 to many, it's Liam can be in many courses. Let's say Liam is taking a course in Python. It can take a course in machine learning. And the way I can make, if the only things I'm interested is 1 to many, I could make this column to be a primary key. And here I can write students. Yeah, hold a second. So what this one could be, this column will function to be a foreign key. It will be linked to this one. So what does it really mean? Let's say Liam is a number 1. From our point of view, since this is the primary key, I can identify every row by its primary key. So if Liam is taking Python and taking machine learning, I can write here 1 and 1. Okay? That will be 1 to many. See, Liam takes those 2 courses. But what is the problem? The problem will be, is this is a good relationship on this. That's what you learned last time. If I would try to do the same things on this type, that a student can be registered to several courses, I will face a problem. Let's say Amos also wants to take the course in Python. That's already occupied. I can put it. And okay, so Amos have left only to take this one, those 2. That's really not what I want. So a 1 to many, it's not the right link if I have that a student can register to several courses. And in each course, there could be more than 1 student. And here I cannot really do it here because Liam already occupied that place. So what you learned last week, it's not appropriate for this kind of a relationship between a student table to a courses table. Because this kind of relationship, it's really what is known as many to many. So I delete this row, that cannot do the job. That will do the job for one too many, but not many too many. So what you learned last week, one too many, it's not gonna work. When is it a good time that you can put a one too many? You can do one too many. For example, you put a list of all the cities on one hand, and the other table is the residents. That's a one too many will work, because assuming that a person lives only in one house. So every house in your city, okay, so let's say you have Kampala and Tebe, okay? So I can have a table of cities. That will be cities. Primary key, instead of people here, I'll delete all of those and I'll delete that. Let's call that one name. You know, and here I can write country. And I can write, here we go, Kampala. And I write Uganda. And here I'll write Entebbe. Did I spell it right?
It's E.
Entebbe, Uganda. And then I'll write Netanya, Israel. I'll write Tel Aviv. That's another city in Israel. Israel. Okay? And now I can link citizens. Okay, so here I can write houses. I can even write houses. I can write whatever. Let's say families. Let's call this families. Okay, let me copy that one here. Call this one families. And here we go. Let's write Christian. Christian. Sorry, my mistake. That's why families will be also. Let's take, let's call it name. That's enough for us. And instead of that, I will write here Christian. And here I'll write Baranes and other families. I will just make it up. Williams. And let's call Jacobson. Okay. Now I can say, well, Christian lives in Uganda. Therefore, I can write here primary key, and I can write here city. And now what I can do, Christian really belongs to the city of Kampala in Uganda. So I'll write the number 1 here. That will work. Baranes belongs to only one city, and that's number 3. I live in Netanya. That will work. Okay? Every city can have many citizens, but every citizen belongs only to one city. That will work. That's one too many. For every one city, this is one too many. Okay? Every city can have several citizens. So Christian is in Kampala, and let's say Williams is also in Kampala. And let's say Jacobson is also in Kampala. But in Netanya, there's only one person. Okay? Christian cannot belong to several cities. And that's classical one too many. On the other hand, in this case, when I have several students, let's write more students. Shio, let's say I'll just make some names, okay? All those students, they can participate in several courses, and every course could have several students. That trick of adding another column here, which we call it a foreign key column, will not work. In the case of many-to-many, we must make what is known as a bridge table. That's what known as a bridge table. You must have at least 2 columns. In many cases, you will have a 3rd column, but that's really when you're extending the bridge column. Not just for simplicity, I will make only 2, and then in other sessions, we'll extend when we have bridge table that will have more than 2 columns, but at least 2 columns has to be. You cannot create a link between students to courses in which a student can take or be enrolled in several courses, and every course has many students. You won't be able to do that. So let's start it. Let's say William. So I'm going to call this one primary key students. And the second one, I'm going to call primary key courses. Fair enough? Now, see, William enrolled in Python, so I'm going to write number 1 here. He enrolled in Python. Pay attention. William here is number 1. It's his primary key. This column, really, we call it linked to this column. And therefore, when I write number 1, it means number 1 from this table. And here, when I write number 1 here, I refer to number 1 in the second table. Now I have the whole information. William, sorry, not William, Liam is number 1, and Liam takes a course, which is number 1, which is Python. By writing 1-1, I know exactly that Liam is taking Python. But Liam is not taking only Python, he is also taking machine learning. So I'm writing Liam again here, and on the right side, I'll write number 3. Now I know Liam taking 2 courses. He takes course number 1 and 3. What are number 1 and 3? It's Python and machine learning. Now let's say Hanoch. Hanoch is number 5. So I write number 5 here. Hanoch is taking Python. Python is number 1. So now it's nice. Who is taking Python? Python, there's 2 students taking Python. Student number 1 and student number 5. Student number 1 is Liam, and student number 5 is Hanoch. By having a bridge table, I can allow this link, these connections, to know who are the students taking a specific course, and every student which courses it takes. So if Hanoch takes also deep learning, so right here 4, and let's say if Liam changes his mind and wants to take extra course of JavaScript, I'll write number 1 here and number 2 here. So now I know Liam is taking 3 courses. Which courses Liam is taking? Number 1, number 3, and number 2. Hanoch is taking only 2 courses. He's taking number 1 and number 4. This way, see, if I'm sorting this table by this column, I will find, see, if I'm sorting it, all the 1 will show first. So it will show me first Liam, and it will show me all the courses Liam is taking. And then it will show me 5, it will show me what Hanoch is this. So it really doesn't matter when you register or you apply to a course by having this bridge table. This is what we call it a bridge table. It's bridging between those 2 tables. That's really the minimum you need to know about databases to start. Usually people take a whole complete course. Some of them take even 3 courses. From my experience, it's a waste of time. Not a waste of time, really. The timing is not right. It's not good to take now a complete course learning about indexes and a lot of issues before you really know what you're going to use it. I just give you a very small example. Moreover, how do we build up those tables in the database? So there is a language called SQL, and people spend their life studying that language. And the good news is that we're going to jump to the next topic, which is Python. And with Python, after we learn Python and we learn what are objects, then we will switch to Django. Now, Django, it is not a language. It is a library written with Python. And what a beautiful part about Django, and the beautiful it's written with Python, classes of Python, that Django has special classes that can create those tables automatically. I will define as an object in Python, and then I will write some command, and you automatically will generate those tables. Instead of having me write the code in SQL, run the code in SQL and create it, I will create an object in Python, which is in the framework of Django, run that code, and that code will know to convert the command from Python to SQL automatically, and from SQL, it will go to the database, and in the database, it will create those tables. I hope it's clear, but even if it's not clear, don't worry. Because it will be clear when you do it. You know, the best way to understand something is do it. And if you do it, it means you really understood, okay? So many times I say things, you can go and hear the recording later on, but I recommend you see it again after we finish. And then you saw examples. And in fact, re-see this video after we finish the next session, when we start with Django, okay? Because then you will see that object, then you go to this one and everything will make sense. And we'll demonstrate, so don't worry about it. Okay, let me save this one. I will call it many to many. I'll keep it and upload it later on. Okay, let's go jump into Python.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So since in many to many, you don't use the foreign key, how do you find what you're looking for?
How what?
Since in many to many, you don't use a foreign key, how would you search for?
You do. You do use a foreign key, and I'm glad you asked that. You do use a foreign key. But the foreign key doesn't go to the other table directly. I will show you. Very good question. See, you do have a foreign key. In fact, you can think about it. This is the foreign key that goes to the students table. This is a key, and this is a foreign key. So for every one row here, there could be many rows here. So this is a foreign key linked to this table. It doesn't, the foreign key doesn't exist here that links to here as we had in one-to-many. In one-to-many, the foreign key was in the other table. Here, the foreign key is in the bridge table. The same thing, in fact, you have another foreign key. This is also a foreign key. This is a foreign key to this key. So here I have a primary key linked to this foreign key. And here it really makes sense. Number one, it has several rows. I have one row, second row. So it's one too many on this side. The one is here. I'm glad you asked. This is a good question, in fact. I don't know why I didn't say it myself. Okay, so I have one too many. Let's put a little space here. Okay, the one is on the one is on this side, and the many is on this side. For every key here, for every key, okay, or every row here, I have many rows here. So I'll see number one, it belongs to this, okay? Number 4, we have only 1, 2, 1, etc. But we have, for 1, we have 2. We could have for any numbers. I can have many numbers here for every one here. So it's 1 too many. This is the primary key, and this is the foreign key. On the other hand, on the other side, let's add another 2. Let's add another 2 columns here. Okay, here we have really, here we have the one is here. Let me take one out. Here we have the one is on this side. For every row here, this is the one side, and here's the many side. For every row, Liam, for example, is number 1. Liam can have 3 rows here. So this is the one, this is the many. This is the primary key, this is the foreign key. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. More questions, Hanor? Good. So we will see how we build it. In fact, the beautiful part about Python and Django, not only you can define the tables, you can also create it will create the bridge table automatically. Many times you don't want him to create it automatically. You want to create the bridge table by another object in Python. And then you link this one to this one, and you tell him link this one to this one through a bridge table, and we'll learn that in Django. Okay? So the beauty here that you save a hell of a lot of time spending your learning all the SQL. It's good to learn, but take your time. And the beauty here, 90%, I used to spend a lot of time on SQL, now I spend only 10% of what I used to, just because I do the whole things in Python/Django. Again, I emphasizing, Django is not a programming language. Django is a package in Python, but it's a beautiful package that gives you a hell of a lot of power, okay? So let's close this one. More question before I close it? Good. Hanoch? Good. Okay, let's jump to Python now. And we will go from introductions. By the way, you have a lot of very good videos there if you want. Do it later on, not now. Spend most of your time for now on Python, and then on Django, and then start reviewing. And then in level 2, we get a little deeper on every topic. Okay, so let's go into the basic topics. And look at those videos. You know, the more you see, the more you learn by yourself, it's perfect. We'll go over today on a code that I prepared, okay? It doesn't like me. Yeah, here we go. I go into here, and I'm going to this code. I think I already put it in the installation. I don't remember, but I think I might. I will do it 2 ways. Let me close everything here. Yeah, let me open the other project. And you know, since it's a Python file and you already linked Python's files to PyCharm, when we did the installation of PyCharm, when I go into here, we downloaded a file. Okay, by mistake, I downloaded 3 of them. Okay, and if I double click on this one, it automatically will open this. No, I didn't like it. Yeah, here we go. Really? No, it didn't. Okay. Let me close all this stuff here. We'll come back to that big time, okay? That will be our next station to come to all that stuff. First, we go first things first, okay? And I go into here, and I go into, okay, and I have this one, I will do file, open it. I click open or edit with PyCharm, community editor. So since it's already open, it will open it right there, and I'll have this copy here. This is a beautiful way to do it, by the way. This is what I call the professional way to study, okay? Another way, just for a beginner, you can take the whole code, mark it up, copy it. It's also good for beginning, but we will jump both ways. I will advise to stay away from the second method. This first method I'm going to do, I added here Python Online Editor. This is ready for beginner. It's excellent one. And it's basically allow you to put code here in Python and go and exercise. And when you run or execute, it will do it and show you on the other side. So it's a nice editor. And for example, you see, when you have a hash, it just makes it as a comment. But if I do control slash, it's right the one below the question mark, it will remove those hashes. Now we will, if I run the execute, it will run this code and will say hello world Amos. Just the first things you usually do when you start a new language. Oh, it doesn't like me. Why it doesn't like me? Let's see.
Lunch time, it isn't supposed to be a comment. It's supposed to be a comment.
Yeah, this one's supposed to be a comment. You're right. Thank you. Okay. I removed the comment from the wrong place. Okay. So those 3 lines, it's exactly it. It's just print. Print is a simple command in Python. You will use it just for debugging sometimes or whatever. So the way I study, or the way I recommend you can study, okay, I understood, you have the code. So you finish that, you understood it, just delete it. Okay, move on to the next one, condition. So here we will learn condition, control slash. And what is the condition? In every language you have it. If this condition correct, then you will print this one. Otherwise, you will do the else. So this is the syntax in Python. Another language has the same idea, but a different syntax. If you notice, Python is a little different than other languages. You know, you write a command, you put a semicolon, and then you have to keep the right, you know, indent it to the right in the right spaces. Otherwise, it won't work. Something that I found it's annoying sometimes, but that's the way it is. So if this is correct, you will do that, but 1 is not bigger than 2, so this is incorrect. So what I'm expecting him to print, no, it is not. So let's run it. If I run it, okay, it will show me the result on the other. It really did. He wrote, no, it is not. So it did do the job. So let's write now the number 5 here. 5, it is bigger than 2. So this is condition is correct. So if I run it, I'm expecting to print 5 is greater than 2. Okay, so let's run it. Yeah, 5 is greater than 2. Okay, that's called condition. I might seems like going fast a little bit at the beginning, but I expect you to go over that and do it several times. Don't be shy and don't feel like something with you. It really does require repetition and review until you really learn the whole things. Let's do variables. Here I have X, Y, and Z are 3 variables. So if I'm running only this code, it won't show any output. There's not, because there isn't any output, but it does do something. It's keeping in memory that a variable X is 5. A variable Y, it is hello world. A variable Z, it's defined as a function of X. So it tells me X times 20. Mathematically, it makes sense. Yeah, it should be 100. So this is supposed to be 100. So let's see. Let's remove those hashes from this one as well and run it again. Yeah, it did print. You see, it printed the X. It is 5. That's correct. Y is a hello world. And really Z, it's X times 20. It is 100. So it is the work. Okay, let's move on. I take the other one. I will remove those ones so we won't get confused. And I will, this one a little trick, which is kind of cute in Python. You know, it doesn't make any sense to take Y times 10. You can already take a string and multiply it by a number. Usually it will not work. In Python, it does work. And let's see what it does. So in Python, what it did, you know, Y times 10, it just kind of printed hello world 10 times. So it does work in Python. In other languages, you'll get an error. The next one is making a dash 50 times. So many times if I write my code and I want to kind of debug, I use this one, okay? This one very rarely, but just to know that you can print, type, and multiply, but it will do something different that we usually know. Let's say another way to define variables. Here we define 3 separate variables separately. You can also define them this way. You put all the definitions on the right side and the variable's name on the left. So if you look at X, Y, and Z now, let's click uncomment all of those. Okay, so it will put orange in the X, it will put banana in the Y, it will put cherry in the Z. Then I can add them up. I can do a plus. It's really a string, a concatenation. And it's like kind of summing string. You can add even a space between them. So I will do orange and banana with a space between them. Let's run it. That's an easy stuff. You can catch up as you go along. You see, he printed the orange, banana, cherry, and then he added up 2 things. So in a string, I can do addition, okay? Let's see what else. Here it's a different way of defining. If you define X, Y, and Z this way, you're really telling him X and Y and Z, they are the same variables. Let's just give them different names. But they are all orange, okay? So if I print this part, I will get really all of them will be orange because they are all defined X equal Y equal that, they are all orange. Now let me ask you that one. Let's see. Let's make an exercise. Let's see what the result will be. X equal to X plus space at 22. I'm just making it up. Fair enough. And now I want to print Z. What do you think will come out, Hanoch? I'm really redefining X. You can do it, you know, in language. It's not like mathematics, it doesn't make any sense. X is whatever X was before, and I'm adding A22. So I'm redefining X, but I'm not printing X, I'm printing Z. Let's print both of them, X and Z. Let's see the result. Oh, it's interesting. The X are redefined, so I already have 822. So Z is really not the same variable, it's a different variable, although I define them that way. They're not occupying the same space, on the memory of the computer. They are totally different locations, different variables altogether. So if you change the X, Z is holding only the orange, and that's a good one. Sometimes you will see it's not the case. What I would like to do now, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to continue going to the pie chart. Because in the pie chart, that's where you want to work. This is a call for kids. You are a kid, okay? Both of you are kids, but you really want to jump as a professional and get used to it. So let's go back to Python in PyCharm. Let's run this one, okay? Let's remove the stuff we did, condition, all that we did, so we can remove it. And get used to this one, because that's the place we're gonna usually do stuff, okay? So let's start from the beginning, Now, let's take those ones out. We don't need those. And we don't need this one. We did those. And let's move on to this one. Let's start this one again, Control. Okay, and now how do you do it? You do right click, this first time, unless you get confused sometimes, you have run, and that's the file name. It will run it. It start running, it will take its time a little bit, and here we go. It did run, and you see the output on the bottom, okay? Here, when we run a code, it shows me the output on the right side. I usually don't recommend. You got the idea. If you need small test or something, you can go there, but start using PyCharm, because PyCharm is more professional tool, okay? Now, after you run the first time, it always shows here, you can click the execute.
One thing you need to know, I know you know it, but just to say it, this isn't a terminal. This is another thing. Here, when we print stuff, it will print here, but this isn't the same as a terminal. I just wanted to say it so you won't get confused.
Exactly. You see in the bottom, you have a terminal. That's what we'll use later on with Django and installation. But this one is really the console. And the console is really just showing you the output when you run it. Okay? Okay, I'm going to throw this one away. And you walk the same way as you did before. This is an excellent way of studying. And okay, Control C. Let's run what we have here. We're defining X as 5. Let's run it and talk about it. Okay? First things is X is 5. I define X to be 5. I defined B to tell me what type is X. So type is a Python command, a Python function. And it checks which kind of a type it is B. When I print it, it tells me, oh, this is really interesting. If you notice, it is an integer, but it really is a class of integer. In Python, every variable is a class. And we'll learn what a class is, it will make sense. In many other languages, it is not a class. But in Python, almost everything is a class. So we will get to classes and we'll talk about it. Okay, so that's what I defined, the top one. Then I defined a string. I printed a string like a divider. That's what I many times use it. And then I defined a float number. You see, when you have a decimal point, it's called a float. And I defined B to be a type of X, and then I printed B. I did got a float, if you see that, because I have that decimal point. Everything with a decimal point considered as a float in Python. And there's many other kinds. Float, string, integer are very common in Python. As we go along, we learn more types. Let's look at the other one. We run it. We define X to be Amos, type of B, and then we do a B, and that's a string. Why? Because Amos is a string, I'm putting it in quotation mark. Okay, very simple. Now let's go and move to other more interesting stuff. This is a little confusing, a little bit in Python. Very important to notice. I'm defining a range. Range is between 0 to 6 minus 1. We'll see it in a minute. Let's print it. Let's run the code. And we'll learn other things here. First of all, I told him, print for me what is x. I define x to be a range. It is not between 1 to 6. In Python, Python is a zero-based range, meaning it starts from a 0 up to 6 minus 1. I have 6 digits, but each one of them, they are starting from a 0 and ending up with 6 minus 1 in this case. That's why I got a range 0 to 6. It means from 0 to 5. Now, how did I get that? You might know what is a for loop. In a for, you say, for every I in this range, it looks confusing to someone that is not familiar with this kind of logic. You say for every digit, I, it says a digit in this range. Oh, and then print that I. So repeat yourself for every time you have a digit here. I have 6 digits here. Go over all of them and print each one of them. So that's what it did. But the first one is a 0 and the last one is 5. That's why I printed 0 to 5. That's why you know that the range is 0 to 5. We'll see 4 in a second again. Okay? Next one, which is very important, it's a dictionary. Dictionary means that I can define a name of, I can give a name and a value. I give a name and a value. In this way, the X is considered as a dictionary. Pay attention to the type of parentheses here, okay? It can be like what we call value, a name value pair or key value pair. This is the key, this is the value. This is the key, this is the value. We'll use it a lot. So let's print it. Let's see what we get. Okay, up. He didn't like me. Why he didn't like me? Why did I screw up? This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Should be okay. This is this one is not okay. The last one, yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm running the whole things again. And here we go. It tells me I printed the X, it just printed exactly itself. And pay attention. X is the dictionary now. And how do I pull the value of a key? I would do X and I put inside in square bracket, I'll write the key. So that gives me the value. The value of the key name, it is John. So this one, this printing John. And that's why I got John here. When I'm printing the second one, X edge, it is really, it gives me the 36, okay? Fair enough? This is a very important concept. Now, the beautiful part that after I define the X, I can add another pair, okay? I'm defining another key called a country. And the country is Ivory Coast. They write here, Uganda, okay? So we know that it is really working. Okay, let's run it again. See, after I added the country to be Uganda, when I'm printing X, it has what it had before, and he added another pair, country, and the country is Uganda. The value is Uganda, okay? I'm going to take a break, okay? Hanoch, Liam.
I should have something
Wait.
to say.
Yeah, no, one second. Let me
Yes.
just say what I want to say.
The X
No,
is printed.
yeah, I have to take a break. Well, one second. I have to take a break of about 45 minutes. Can we continue at 6 o'clock? Liam? Can we continue the session at 6
What
o'clock?
about tomorrow?
Okay, we'll do tomorrow. What time tomorrow?
Same time. 6 or
Sometimes,
4.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Beautiful. The reason I have to take this call, I just got a message, I have to take this call, I apologize, but it gives you a little time to review, okay? Why don't you review the stuff, and tomorrow I think we'll continue. We had enough material, just review up to this point, and tomorrow we'll finish this session, okay?
Okay.
Good. Go ahead, Hanoch. You wanted to say something. I can't hear you. Hello, we
All
can't
right,
hear
now
you.
you can hear me. Now you can hear me. Abba, you are free to disconnect if you want. I will just talk with Liam now. If
No
it's fine.
problem, okay. Can I do stop share, and that's okay?
Yes,
Okay,
I will even
good.
start recording.
And